Alright, welcome back to Terra Invicta in episode 2, the episode where we start thinking a little more globally after taking over the United States in episode 1. We now have the world's most powerful military, 28 barrages of nuclear weapons, and a fair chunk of economy under our control, but we're still overstretched, and the United States could do with some changes. Because in Terra Invicta, there are different attitudes you can take towards countries that you have influence over. You can just try and extract resources from them, which is fine, but if you're going to be there permanently, optimizing them is probably a good idea. This game can go for a very long time. 30 years is probably a base. Like finishing in the 2050s, I've heard colloquially, is about right, and games can go longer than that. So optimizing a nation for long-term growth is probably a good idea. The US starts off in pretty good shape, to be fair. Very high education standards. It's relatively peaceful, and I'm getting that public order down to just zero dissent, which is better for the economy and for everyone. And a very good GDP per capita. What it doesn't have is perfection. So inequality starts high, which is a problem. High levels of inequality undermines cohesion, which is how polarized your politics are, how well people hold together. And what you want with cohesion is you don't want people to be polarized. You also don't want people to be monolithic. You want to hold, depending on what you want to do, holding polarization around about the middle is really good for things like research, whereas very, very high cohesion keeps unrest down and makes it very difficult for other nations to invade you. Low cohesion, like really, really low cohesion, is just bad. It gives you constant unrest. So the United States is trending towards polarization. So we're going to try and use some unity investment to get the United States population more or less on the same page. We're going to make ourselves more popular in doing so. So investing in unity does nothing useful for the economy. It increases cohesion, it increases your popularity of your party based on the control points you hold, and it very, very slightly decreases democracy score. Democracy score is good because it increases economic health and investment, all else being equal. We're going to put some investment into the economy. We're going to try and start getting GDP at least stable, not decreasing. And we're going to put big investments into knowledge, both to boost science and also because knowledge investment slowly boosts democracy, which is good, and drags cohesion towards the middle value, which is 5. So investment knowledge equals good. Welfare to try and bring this inequality score down, again to try and stabilize the country, make sure that there's a minimal of dissent and the economy is bearing well. Once we've got cohesion towards 5 and inequality coming down, we can decrease our investment in welfare and unity and put more into the economy and into the military. We're just doing 10% military research at the moment. This just pushes up your military tech level and slightly reduces unrest. So we want to do this for the United States because we want these armies that the US has to be as effective as possible. We're not doing any spoils. I'm not tolerating any corruption in my America. And as you can see, the oligarchs and the powers that be are very disappointed. They want at least 17% corruption as their expectation. I'm doing 0, which will also lower the environmental damage that the US causes and make people happier, but it will cut my cash income considerably. I'm not investing anything in funding, so I won't be getting any additional increase in my cash income. Funding basically gives you a small permanent increase to the amount of money you get per month per control point. Not doing any of it. Not investing in boost, so we're just going to get the base 2.3. We're not going to build any more. We might build just a tiny bit more considering it's got 1.9 here. So we might just do a little bit of investment here just to drag that over 2. It'll trigger and then we'll invest nothing. Mission control 0. I want to build that in Canada once we can expand again. I'm not building any new armies and I'm not building any new nuclear weapons. So there we are. That's my plan for the United States. What I need to do now is first I need to get unrest in the United States down to 0 as quickly as possible. And I've got councillors here who can help me do that. They can drag it down. I'll throw 3 councillors at the problem. That should be enough to drag it down to 0 unrest. And we'll public campaign in the US just to be as popular as possible. I just want to get the United States in order basically as quickly as possible. And we'll need to do secure interest to make sure no one cracks down. So there we are, critical success. That drags the down to peaceful, down to peaceful. There we are, 0 unrest. Fantastic. And 50% of Americans now agree that all aliens must die. Love it. We're losing points in Canada and Mexico. That makes sense. So when you abandon a point, you don't lose it instantly. You stop paying upkeep on it, and you keep the benefits of it. But for the next 6 months, it counts as cracked down, which means it's very easy for someone else to come in and take the points. The resistance are the ones coming in and taking the points, and that's okay. Of all the factions in the game, the resistance are the closest to us, so they're the ones I want to be doing well. We want to maximize our power, but ideally we'd also prefer if someone else has to be doing well, it'd be those factions that we agree with most. And the resistance is basically us, but less extreme. They believe aliens must be defended against, we believe aliens must be destroyed. Fantastic. Okay, so the US is now in a pretty good position. We're getting very close. We're about to research clandestine cells. We're not going to have enough influence straight away in order to recruit anyone. So we're going to have to be a bit creative in how we do that. And we're not going to be able to buy any orgs because we are over our limit. But we might be able to do some level ups just to increase our benefits a little bit. Now, normally what I would do is I would straight out the box be going for administration. Administration is very, very useful because you control more orgs. We can't afford any orgs at the moment. So instead what I might do is I might grab some points, just a few extra influence points up here. So grabbing a command point, which will be very good for coup d'etats. So we'll level up Max to be 1 better at command. Our judge, her primary influence is going to be she'll probably keep persuading people. She's actually a candidate to be gotten rid of, to be honest. Nero is very, very good. The opinion leader, so is she really, at media darling, government and all that. But they're both useful in the persuasion sort of traits. Neither of them are going to be really good for other stuff. Nero is just going to be persuasion all the way because he has public campaigns, so that's a good idea for him to have. Whereas Sahiba, who I will rename or will remember to rename eventually, we'll get her persuasion for now, but she could also use espionage to eventually be going down that area. And then Vincenar, I'm hoping will eventually get some orgs that give him access to things like Crackdown and Purge. But for the moment, he's also probably... he's instinctively going to want to go into that sort of persuasion-based sort of stuff. But I think I am going to invest in administration, because he's going to need orgs. May as well invest in it now. And administration does count towards the cap. So we're now at 163 over 150, which has reduced our costs and increased our influence income per month to 32.3, which means if we don't spend any influence this month, we can probably afford a cheap councillor. We wait one more month, we can afford a 60 cost councillor, and then we're probably going to be over our cap. Or rather within our cap again. So that's fantastic. So I'm now going to just kill some time and money working on the United States because we can't really expand anywhere else. But what I will start doing is gathering intelligence. So I have things like Investigate Councilor. Max has Investigate Councilor and Surveil Location. So I can start gathering some intelligence. In particular, I want to start finding out what the servants are doing and what the Protectorate are doing, because they're the alien lovers. The Protectorate are scared of the aliens and would like to surrender, and the servants are weirdos who actively want to join the aliens. They are heretics and they are not allowed on this planet. So we're going to start surveilling them. And then once I unlock my technology and I'm over my cap, that'll be one problem solved, and we'll talk about our next steps. Okay, so Terra Invicta is really a game that's designed in phases. The initial mad scramble allows every faction to send out their councillors once a week to try and secure as much territory as possible. Basically shape the game. Once you hit February 2023, there's been a little bit of time passed and humanity has gotten used to the idea of aliens. There's less of a mad scramble, so the number of missions per month decreases. You only get one mission phase per fortnight rather than per week. So basically the new normal is starting to be established. Things are starting to slow down. I've unlocked clandestine cells. I'm just picking up audience research, which are these repeatable researches that give you a small set amount of resources. They're generally a bad idea, I think, because there's no permanent benefit, but grabbing this just gives me a quick 25 influence bonus, which gets me closer to buying another councillor, which will put me in a position where I can afford to re-expand a little bit. Kazakhstan, going back to Kazakhstan would be an option, but I don't think there was a way where I could have avoided surrendering it rather, because I needed to get underneath this cap in order to save the influence, in order to get a councillor, and being so over just wasn't serviceable. I've started spying on my own councillors just to get an idea of their loyalty. So I've got a loyalty 10 and a loyalty 14. So I still need to spy on Vincenar. There we are. Let's spy on Vincenar. Actually, no, you need to spy on Max. And you need to spy on Vincenar. Eventually, we want to push everyone's loyalty up to something solid, like potentially even the maximum, which is 25. But we don't have a councillor who can inspire other councillors yet. All of our people are cynical and no fun at parties, so we're in a bit of a difficult position there. I will keep surveilling Toronto because I'd like to locate a resistance councillor who we can then make contact with, basically. Okay, there we are. We've completed audience research. That gives us a 25 influence bonus, so we should be at 60 relatively soon. And let's grab the rest of management research and go back into... Let's go back into Deep System Skywatch a little bit just to push that along. Management research plus an additional councillor should put us in a pretty good place to be able to expand. Victor 2 is in low Earth orbit and we can do exactly nothing about it. We will launch a space station soon. Victor 2 has crashed in China, so guess where Max gets to go check out next? Mission. Okay, Max has a loyalty of 11.
We have found nothing of note.
And Vincenar we don't know yet, but that's okay. We'll keep spying on Vincent until we know. America, we're now at 73% public opinion. The servants have staged a coup in Kazakhstan. Bloody hell. That's it's a tad annoying actually. There we are, we're at 60 influence. So, what councillors are on offer? So what are we looking for? We don't need anyone to do Control Nation. We want someone to do some good utility stuff now. So missions that we are missing, we're missing a really good Purge Crackdown person, and we're missing an Inspire person. And maybe even Public Campaign. So here we are, there's a celebrity, big influence income, can do Inspire, can do Turn Councillor, all based on Persuasion. So she might actually be able to replace some of our existing Persuasion characters, actually. She's also got good... we would probably fire someone else and replace them with the celebrity, because in the end, people who can Public Campaign are better than people who can't, because you're always going to want to improve your popularity. Evangelist, also I mean, I want to change this portrait because the moustache and bow tie is kind of freaking me out. But what have we got? 7 Persuasion, Public Campaign, a little bit of admin. You can crack down, but you've got no stats for it. You do have Inspire, so another candidate for Inspire. We have a Commando. We don't need another Commando, and this one's probably worse because they don't have Coup. The Tycoon is probably a pass. The Judge is a pass, not very good at the things that we need. The Fixer, again, not very good at the things that we need. The Hacker, a bit terrible, actually. So really, I think we're down to the Celebrity or the Evangelist. What are the relative advantages? So the Celebrity... in the stats that we care about, the celebrity is probably better. They can inspire. I mean, Careless isn't great. Brazen is good. I'll take the -1 to security in exchange for +1 persuasion in low learning nations. Affluent Megastar, kind of good. I think we hire the celebrity, which gives us someone who can inspire the rest of our colleagues, which is fantastic. So we might eventually, if we'll keep an eye on councillors that are available, we might fire someone eventually and try and replace them with a good coup expert. Otherwise, we can build our operative into a coup expert. It just means continuing to level his stats. So that could work, which means what we really need at that point is a purge expert. So do we have anyone with decent espionage? Vincenar doesn't have the mission, but has the stats. And Max can do both, but Max is probably going to want to be leveling into a coup and assault asset instead. So we're probably going to replace one of our starting characters with like an astronaut or a scientist later on. Science is also a useful stat to have a good amount of, and right now I have terrible science. Like terrible lack of science. So ideally, we can get Vincenar to get the purge mission. Nero will keep for public campaigning, persuasion, etc. Sahiba probably goes at some point and gets replaced with a science-based character. But we're only going to worry about this once we're higher in influence, and we're going to spend our next influence on racking up some organizations. So I think we're good for the moment. That's a lot of talking about the council, but there we go. Let's get to the next turn. Resistance has failed a purge mission. Okay, and we are now at the point where we have control point cap again.
Your orders?
So my question is, what are the odds of going into Kazakhstan? So with it, we could throw a coup at Kazakhstan. We've got the cap. 7, 14, 15. We'd be over again. With a little bit of management research, we might actually be able to handle Kazakhstan. It'd be a lot more manageable than having Canada, and it would give us a lot of boost income initially and let us continue with that plan. So I might throw a coup in Kazakhstan once we've investigated some alien activity. I'll start building up some popular support there because it'll help. Yeah. Especially since the servants are not running spoils, which means that the elites there are dissatisfied. So we might target Kazakhstan. I don't like that the Protectorate are going into Russia. I want the Resistance or someone harmless like Exodus to take Russia. I don't want a pro-alien faction in Russia. So that could be a problem. Alright, leave with me. I'm going to click around and I'll be back when something interesting happens. Okay, so we've completed Deep System Skywatch. This is where we take Hubble and whatever telescopes we have and we point them not so much beyond the solar system, but at the solar system in order to understand what's out there. And instantly it has let us, I'll just pause, discover that there are alien bases out here on Pike's Last Stand. So if we zoom in, got an alien surface base here with a mining complex, space works, reactor farm, not looking good. Or rather, they look very, very comfortable. A smaller base out there. They've got a space station here, alien station Able. What's it got? An alien battle station, layered defense arrays, and a space works. So where are we when we're looking out? Because this gives you some context to the initial sort of setup in the solar system. So the place that we're detecting the aliens is out here. Let me see if I can zoom out. Because as you can see, Terra Invicta has a very, very, very large solar system. So the alien ships that we've discovered are all in the inner system heading towards Earth. But the alien base that we've just discovered is way out here in the Kuiper Belt. So way out beyond what you would think of the edge of our solar system. Like this is way beyond Pluto. That's Pluto there. This is way out there. So we're talking a big, big, big journey from Earth. And then we've got all these alien ships that we've discovered, all of which are transferring slowly to low Earth orbit. So this one will arrive in October, this one will arrive in October, this one will arrive in February 2024. They're coming from a long, long way away, even with their fancy engines. We are here in the inner solar system. So they are about as far away as it is possible to be, which is why humanity has only discovered them once it decides to actually go and do active surveillance. The other thing that we're going to do is we're going to set up our first space station. We don't have much technology for it yet, but we may as well get it built. We'll build one in low Earth orbit. It's going to cost a little bit of money and 1.5 boost, which is about a month's income, so not too bad. So we'll go here. We'll call it LEO1. Where's the rename button gone? They've changed this. It's now much nicer and easier to control, but on the other hand, I do not know where the rename button is anymore. So there we are. I'll figure that one out later. So HABs. At the start of the game, you just get this little HAB. It's a crew of 3, 15 tons. It'll be finished in March. We've got a couple of modules that we could build here, solar collectors, and then various science labs. These generate just a little bit of science, a little bit of a bonus in terms of research, but they also, if you build them in an interface orbit, which is to say if you build them in low Earth orbit, they give a certain bonus. So for example, each life science lab gives +3 bonus to investments in welfare, +3 bonus to mission control. So we might... How much power do these guys use? These guys still use 5 power? Fantastic. So we can build on Earth and we can launch a solar module eventually, and then we could launch some life science modules as well. So if we save up a bit of boost, we could build a small station which will make our investment in welfare or the economy or whatever we want on Earth just that little bit more effective. Great, we can research alien origins. We'll do that after we finish management research.
We've got some intel on our target.
I'm spying on opposing councillors just to try and discover who's who.
Come to our side.
Public campaign in Kazakhstan, setting ourselves up for our coup. Although it does look like the servants are doing their best to stabilize. Servants are doing their best to stabilize Kazakhstan, so we may end up going into Russia instead. Because if we go into Russia, we can then take control of Kazakhstan the hard way. Because what are we looking at in terms of options now? Oh, we could throw a 20% and we could throw a 13% twice, that's bad odds. Or we could just spam 5%ers. I mean, we could also just increase unrest in Kazakhstan. That would increase our odds of staging a coup there quite significantly. So we might do that. Meanwhile, I'm going to start public campaigning in Russia, because if we can take control of even 2 control points of Russia, that would cost 30. So it would take a little bit of effort to not be horrifically over. But just taking the executive control point in Russia would prevent someone else getting control of these nukes, and maybe let us absorb Kazakhstan. So maybe that's something to work on. Anyway, leave it with me. Alright, here is an event that you will love or hate depending on the faction that you play. You remember I wanted us to finish researching Deep System Skywatch. We now have. What happens when you research Deep System Skywatch is you realize there are a whole bunch of alien military ships and structures in the solar system. Initially it's just 1 or 2 ships crashing on Earth. Who knows what's going on? Once you can see that the aliens brought a whole bunch of warships and facilities with them, or maybe they were here all along, I genuinely don't know. Humanity suddenly realizes, hey, something's up. So what happens now is many who seek an avenue of cooperation are changing their views in light of the first hard facts about their arrival. So basically, the Terra Invicta factions operate on an ideology spectrum, right? There's the centrists, and in the dead center is Academy. They're the ones who want to meet the aliens as equal and negotiate a peace. And then you have flanks moving out on both sides. You've got factions in the middle like Exodus and Initiative who really don't care, but they're sort of in the center. Then you've got Resistance and Protectorate who want to either resist the aliens or surrender to them respectively. And then at the extreme flanks, you've got the Humanity First who want to destroy the aliens and the Servants who want to worship them. The discovery that the aliens have a whole bunch of firepower and warships does 2 things. Firstly, it pushes public opinion around the world towards extremes. So if you were in the center saying, oh, we should cooperate with the aliens, maybe you move a little bit more towards, hey, we need to arm ourselves to potentially defend against them. Or, crap, they have a whole bunch of weapons, we should probably, surrender to them. If you're already in a position of saying we should be careful, so you're either resistance or protectorate, then you might get pushed towards more extremes. Protectorate people might think they're even more stuff than they did, so maybe they move towards the servants and start worshipping. The resistance people might also harden up and decide that maybe we need to be more forceful and join humanity first, declare the Imperium of Man and send the Xenos packing. So if you're on the extreme flanks, then you get more opinion in favor of your view around the world. If you're in a little bit off center, so you're like the resistance, you lose public opinion to the extremes, but you gain it from the center as people from the middle join your faction. The only person who loses ridiculously out of this is the Academy. About half of the control points the Academy controls around the world, as soon as I click this button, are going to go into crackdown mode. That is, they become very, very easy for anyone else to take. At the same time, they're going to lose a massive public opinion bonus everywhere in the world, and everyone moves towards extreme values. And cohesion moves towards extreme values. So if you have very high cohesion, you get even tighter. If you have very low cohesion, it gets lower, I believe. So the Academy gets absolutely screwed. When you click on Academy at Game Start, it says that this is a hard playthrough. In fact, Academy has the easiest start of any nations in the game. They're generally the most popular in wealthy countries, which is where you want to establish yourself. In places like Japan and the United States, the Academy starts usually with a reasonable amount of opinion. They start with the ISS, which is the only research-producing station at Game Start. There's a whole bunch of things going for them. The reason they are hard, well, there's many reasons. One is that it's just hard to do their missions. And the other is, around about March, whenever someone hits Deep System Space Watch, someone, maybe you, is going to hit that button, and as you can see, all of a sudden, half of the control points that you just spent the early game locking down are going to go into crackdown mode. So there we are, we're increasing unrest in Kazakhstan, getting ready for our coup. We failed to improve opinion in Russia, but that was the main thing I want to highlight. So Mexico is fully resistant. I actually don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. I'd like a peace treaty with the resistance. So as you can see, the strong positions that the Academy had gotten around the world are now suddenly vulnerable. They're now suddenly cracked down. They're a little bit lucky in that they've only lost the executive here, so the only faction that can target that is the servants. And even if the servants do take that, as long as the Academy holds the legislature, holding the legislature gives you a bonus to taking over the executive. So they're probably not going to lose Germany in the long run. Their position in Japan is vulnerable. Their position in Korea is extremely vulnerable. So yeah, sucks to be the Academy. And if you look at public opinion around the world, there you are. Look at that. The United States is now 84% in favor of us. We are, however, sectarian in the United States now because people were already pretty divided. They've been pushed towards extreme levels of division. So we're probably going to need to take unity up even higher. Whoops. Which means we're probably going to drop the last boost investment because we got a little bit there. The economy is still going down, but inequality is also going down. This is about priorities. I'm going to temporarily reduce investment in welfare in order to facilitate higher levels of investment in unity and, to an extent, knowledge. I want to get the democracy value up, and it is increasing. It's just increasing very, very slowly. I'd like to get the US over 8 and eventually to 9 on terms of democracy, but I need to solve this cohesion value. And the only way we can do that is with pretty massive investment in unity. So there we are. We've discovered the aliens do not come in peace. Humanity has shifted towards the extreme points of view, which is okay. So countries like Russia that were already pretty cohesive have now become monolithic. China is hegemonic. So these are countries where people have really rallied around, particularly in China, have rallied around government and the society. Unfortunately, China hasn't really decided humanity first is a great. They've 76% are undecided. They just know they're going to do whatever the government says. They don't know what the government will say, but they're going to do whatever the government says. Whereas in Europe, places are mostly holding together pretty well, and it looks like France has decided that running away is the optimum goal. France is under the control of Operation Exodus, so they will be trying to build spaceships to run away from planet Earth, and they're joined by Spain, which looks like it will soon be under full control. So Franco-Spanish alliance of Project Exodus, trying to build spaceships and leave the solar system. So there you are. I'll be back shortly with the next development, but poor Academy. They really are a hard playthrough. You get a really good start, but you have very difficult missions, and that event and events like it can really screw you. Okay, so here's the diplomacy screen. I was able to find a Project Exodus Councilor. You then just use the contact mission and you open the diplomacy screen. So you can't just talk to them any given time. You've got to send one of your people to make contact with one of their people, and it brings up this menu. All I want from them at this point, because we could trade a bunch of stuff, but what I really want from them when it comes down to it is just a non-aggression pact. It increases our relations, and it's basically an agreement that you avoid hostile agreements against each other's nations. I have no problem with Exodus. I hope they do well. They're not going to get in my way, and I'm not going to get in theirs.
I think we had a breakthrough.
Our celebrity is just slowly inspiring, which is a mission that increases the loyalty of your agents. We've just finished our platform core in orbit. We might make another one of these to sell at some point, but for now, how much would it cost to lift? So we could lift for 4.5, or we're almost at the point where we could lift a functional station that would give a little bit of a bonus to our welfare on planet Earth, which might be worth doing. And then we need to start building up boost for a moon mission, which means, Operation Kazakhstan. But we're improving our public opinion in Russia. We're increasing unrest in Kazakhstan. Options are available. I think I'm not going to go back into Canada and Mexico, even though I had ambitions to use Canada for mission control, simply because I don't want to mess with the resistance. If I can find a resistance counselor, I want a non-aggression pact with them, because they're basically on our side, really. The factions I want to get along well with, I want to get along well with resistance, because they want to fight aliens too, they just don't want to destroy them all. They're just pansies. And Exodus, because Exodus wants to industrialize space and run away. That's not really a problem with me. I have no problem with them. I don't care about the Academy. I just think they're naive. The Initiative are I'm suspicious of them, but I'm happy to get a non-aggression if I can, because their goals are not positive to the aliens. The ones I want to go down in a burning ball of fire are the Protectorate, who I think need to be, I think someone needs to beat them up in the schoolyard, basically, because they're a bunch of surrender monkeys, and the servants, as far as Humanity First are concerned, burn them in nuclear fire. So this UK thing is a problem. This UK and this nuclear barrages thing is a problem. Oh, and they've got Ireland too. Bloody hell. Anyway, that's that. Back soon. Okay. I just want everyone to read the message on the screen and then laugh with me really, really hard. Because this game's got some complex systems that aren't initially obvious, and one of them is to do with the coup system. So staging coups in countries initially seems like a great thing in many ways. What coups let you do is, rather than overtaking individual control points, so cracking them down, purging them, working your way steadily through the political system and winning the public over, is you just go in, you stage a military coup, you wipe the government out, and you put a new one in place. The problem is it can go wrong. When you stage a coup in the country, you're guaranteed to blow away all the old control points, make them all neutral. But who controls the new control points is not guaranteed. You're likely to have an advantage, but any nation which has contributed to increasing unrest is presumed to have been funding rebel groups or organizations in that country, which means that when the coup goes down, there's no guarantee that those groups funded by other parties won't take control of some or all the control points. It's possible, for example, if multiple nations are pushing a coup at the same time, by both increasing unrest, for player A to launch a coup and player B to end up in control, which is exactly what has bloody well happened here. Jeez, okay. So what has happened here is the servants have staged a coup, trying to take over the last empty control point. It kind of makes sense if they have better people that are better at coups, so lots of high command operatives and few high persuasion ones. There's a logical reason the AI would want to do this. But it happened at exactly the same time as we were pumping unrest in Kazakhstan, which means that once the armed troops were on the street and trying to throw out the government, all our guys came out of hiding, and while the servants have ended up controlling exactly what they started with, which is the oligarchs, we've ended up with control of the government. So the servants have just installed a humanity-first president, dictator of Kazakhstan, which is freaking hilarious. Let's pause the game immediately. Okay, so we now have the executive of Kazakhstan. Unfortunately, the oligarch slot does give them a bonus to coup d'etat, so we're going to want to throw them out relatively quickly. We're going to want to keep unrest down, and we're going to secure our position. But the first thing that we are going to do, we're currently allies with Russia. No. Kazakhstan is an ally of the United States. There you go. And what that will allow us to do is prevent anyone else from invading Kazakhstan in order to occupy it. Now, preferably what would happen in an ideal world is we would unally, we would remove our alliances from Russia, Belarus, and we may still do this, Belarus, Kyrgyzstan, and Armenia. And then we would send the United States military in to install a new government. We would invade our own country in order to clear out the control of the oligarchs, install a new government, same as old government, and bring us into full alignment. We may still do that. But geez, that's hilarious. What did we lose? 3 boost. Geez, that's an entire month's income. But you see, we're now getting half of Kazakhstan's boost income because the coup has pulled them out of the Eurasian Union. When there is a coup in a country, if you're in the EU and there is a coup, you leave the EU. If you're in the Eurasian Union and there's a coup, you lose access to the Eurasian Union. So there you go. We were increasing unrest in Kazakhstan. We no longer want to do that for obvious reasons. In fact, I want to know what the odds are of purging or cracking down on this particular spot. If we spend enough influence, we can have a really good crackdown chance on this control point in Kazakhstan and get full control of the nation. We don't quite have the capability to pay for it, but I still think that's a good idea. So I'm going to spend 16 influence for a 38% chance to crack that down. And I'm going to send Vincenar to immediately defend interest in Kazakhstan. Do I want to do that? Or do I want to wait to see if I'm going to do that? That may not be efficient. We're going to increase popularity in Russia. We're going to increase popularity just a little bit in Kazakhstan as well, because that's probably useful. And in terms of priorities, we're just going to put everything into unity. And how much spoils do these people expect? 54%. We can't possibly give them 54%, so we may as well give them 0. So we're just going to invest in unity, which will increase public opinion. Oh, wait, no. It'll shift public opinion towards factions with control points in the nation. We don't want that. So we'll give everyone welfare. We'll just boost the nation, because we need to get rid of this control point. Otherwise, we're just going to be giving humanity first opinion, which we don't want. We just need to keep unrest down and to fortify our position. But that's hilarious. If we can lock down Kazakhstan, that's going to give us a lot of the boost income from planet Earth. At the game start, Kazakhstan is the best source of boost on the planet. We know about Blue Horizon and all these other companies that are going to space. We know famously about NASA. But at the end of the day, in 2022, if you want to lift a whole bunch of stuff to orbit, still, the best capacity in terms of lifting on planet Earth is to put it on a Soyuz rocket and launch it out of Baikonur. That's still the best way to lift stuff into orbit in terms of sheer mass. There's a small lift capacity in Japan. It is a quarter. No, it is a fifth of what Kazakhstan's lift capacity is. So if we can secure Kazakhstan, it's relatively cheap to do, and we'll have the ability to build in space, no problem at all. Okay, so one thing I've just noticed, we weren't able to grab that control point in Kazakhstan, which is unfortunate, is that 3 new organizations have spawned, and most importantly, they're all available to purchase for money rather than for influence, which we have plenty of. And one of them is, in fact, me. I was an early backer of the game, so I was able to create an organization, so here I am. My organization gives you the ability to use public campaign, which might be a useful addition to Vincenar here. Adds a little bit of influence, mission control, some science research, gives you 2 science stat points, some military and social science research capacity. All in all, I think I'm a pretty good org. So we're going to attach me to Vincenar, which allows him to then do public campaigning, which is a useful stat to have. We've also got Crossing Rivers for Humanity here, which costs a little bit of money and 2 admin, but gives a whole bunch of extra incomes, which is kind of handy, and +1 persuasion. So who's our heaviest hitter on persuasion? It's probably going to be, because it's where democracy is at least 6, right? I have a feeling that, yeah, we're not going to be getting that bonus in Russia. So what we really need is just the best persuasion all round. So if we get crossing rivers for humanity, we'll get a persuasion 9 character, which might be a better bet for a lot of this. And then what is Orchid? Orchid Defense Services is just a small bonus for, but it's +2 ops income. We currently have 3, so this is probably still a good pickup, especially for someone with low admin. So we'll pick up Orchid Defense Services as well, just to increase our ops income. Okay, so what is the plan now? We've got 1 resistance, 1 protectorate dug in Russia, which means there's only 2 spots free. I kind of want those spots. Because if we grab those spots, we can merge with Kazakhstan, make it less vulnerable to purging. Yes, half of the income will go to the resistance. A quarter will go to the resistance and a quarter will go to the protectorate. That's overall acceptable. The most important thing is that as long as we control this box here, we take Russia's 30 nukes off the board. Of all the nukes that exist in the world, the overwhelming majority are in the hands of the United States and Russia. And if we can seize control of both of those nuclear arsenals, like China's got 3, India's got 2, Pakistan's got 2. Don't get me wrong, nuclear exchanges from those countries can cause problems, like deep damage to the global economy, but nothing like the apocalyptic threat that those 30 nuclear barrages pose. So I think we have to go for Russia.
Ready for my mission.
So what odds can we get? Oh yeah, we can get 51% odds throwing a roll at Russia. So I'll throw a couple of control nations at Russia. I will do some big expenditure in order to make that happen. And then hopefully what we can do at the last moment is we will unally Kazakhstan. We will probably move into it with Russia. We will absorb Kazakhstan into, if this all works out, we will absorb Kazakhstan into Russia, make the Eurasian Union, and that will prevent the constant coup chain in Kazakhstan. Because it's too small, too unstable, it's always going to be vulnerable to coups. So we need to put an end to that. So that's the plan. I'm going to try and take control of the United Russia Party and the executive. And if I manage to do that, we should be in a really good position, because that'll give us all of the United States and Russia as well. This is going to push us over our limit, though. What does this cost? 13 influence. So we'll be just over when we take control of the party, but we'll be quite over when we take control of the executive. Even if we level up our characters again, and we should be getting a range of levels up soon, that'll give us an extra 5 across the board. Oh, it's going to be tight. It's going to be tight. And the next management research is actually quite expensive. I need to find a way to squeeze out more capacity. But I don't think surrendering Russia to anyone else is acceptable. Well, it's acceptable. I just don't want to do it. I just don't want to risk anyone else having these nukes. So I'm going to go for Russia. Well, there you go. Coup in Kazakhstan. Literally saw that coming. Alright, so let's hope the Russia plan pays off. Okay, we have control of the executive in Russia and the party. So we're in a decent position. We've got to deal with the fact that the protectorate are down here. I didn't get both these positions originally. I got this position, and then the protectorate got the executive. I had to crack it down and take it over, but we've got Russia. And in the meantime, they managed to lose one of their armies in Ukraine. And it looks like the AI is still trying to fight in Ukraine and is losing in the process. So First Guards Tank Army exists still. And 20th Guards exists, but one of Russia's 3 starting armies is gone. Rip them. So what are we going to do? I'm going to stabilize the Russian economy, and I'm going to start the process. I'm going to unrival the United States. And I can't ally the United States until August, but that's not too far away. Once I do that, I can ally Russia and the United States. and bring the United States military forces in to help Russia in order to throw the servants out of Kazakhstan. I think that's going to be the play. In the meantime, what we're going to have to do is Russia isn't going to be about... Russia doesn't want to build militaries. Russia doesn't want to build navies. Might build an army because there's a lot of investment there. Certainly doesn't need new nuclear weapons. Russia instead is probably going to be a good source of mission control. Definitely doesn't need to be researching military technology. I hate the fact that the AI is putting so many resources into it. Likewise, it's putting resources into boost and whatnot. It definitely doesn't need Unity because it's already hegemonic. In fact, I want to drop that, so I want to kill all Unity research, and I want to do something like welfare mission control. Like that. I want to get the inequality coming down. It's going to be a hard slog, but I kind of want to get the democracy value pushing up. We want to salvage Russia a little bit, although I may end up focusing more on building mission control in this country. I won't clear out this national industries point because I simply do not have the upkeep value for it. I just don't. In fact, I'm going to need to go around, see if I can find anyone who can be leveled up almost, and then grab some new organizations because I'm now over cap, which is going to be causing us a bit of a problem. But still, a major success. I may even be a point where I insert a cut. With Russia under control, these nukes are neutralized. We will, of course, have to use the defend interests in order to make sure no one steals Russia from us. And to be fair, while we're at it, we should probably also defend interests in the United States, fortify our public opinion here, and then we'll use a lot of our influence to basically bring Russia onto the side that we're on, bring Russia into alignment with the United States, new government installed, and we're going to turn Russia into a democratic and prosperous Eurasian Union that is allied with the United States, and in so doing, hopefully protect the world from nuclear Armageddon. Remember, this is a game about an alien invasion. We're in episode 2, and all I'm doing so far is scrambling around the world trying to prevent extremists and surrender monkeys from taking over the globe's nukes. But that's Terra Invicta. We're still in the opening act of the opening act. See you again soon.